Why did you allow her to walk away from you?
Courtney doesn't want to have anything more to do with me, Preston. Believe me, I'm as astounded as you are. She's decided her life's going to take on new meaning in the bosom of the middle class.
But that's impossible. She understands.
She said it, and she meant it. Now, do I have to explain what that decision means to you personally?
No.
Good. Then I also don't have to explain to you what you have to do to keep Carpenter Shipping afloat.
Before I do anything, I want to know exactly what happened between you and Courtney.
You know more than you need to already, Preston.
Don't play games with me, boy. What happened?
I'm not anybody's boy. I'm your equal, if not your superior. And I may be a guest in your house, but I don't...
You can stop right there, Vaughn. I'd characterize myself as being a very reluctant host, so don't give me an excuse to ask you to leave.
It's the same person that she's been flirting with before, this Peter Davidson. They're getting quite bold. The other day, he sought me out and delivered an ultimatum. And later, when I confronted her about it, she just nodded meekly in agreement. It's all disgustingly bourgeois.
Doesn't sound like Courtney.
Yeah, well, nothing sounds like Courtney anymore. Not since you allowed her to come here.
Look, it's just a phase. There's nothing to worry about.
Didn't Herbert Hoover say that in 1929?
Would you like to try that one again, Preston? This time with a little more conviction?
I know my own daughter.
No, you don't. 2 years ago, when she first started to push to go to college out of state, I warned you that this exact thing would happen. You didn't listen to me then, but you're going to listen to me now. Because you don't have much time to get her back under control.
Preston, it sounds very much to me as if we're going to get a lesson in human relations.
I know what I'm talking about. Right now, she's just into the thrill of being on her own. This Davidson has become the forbidden fruit. He adds the allure of controllable danger to her little misadventure.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Well, I'm not so naive as to think this allure won't wear off. The question is what to do until then.
He's right. Courtney is just as stubborn as any member of this family. And although she may realize that she's wrong, she'll never admit it.
Exactly. She'll just dig in more firmly than ever. That's when the real problems begin.
You know, it sounds very much to me as if you gentlemen have a lot to do. Why don't you start right now?
Unfortunately, I think you're right. You coming?
Oh, I thought I made this clear from the outset, Preston. I'm not getting involved again until you've done your part.
Too worried to stay away, huh?
I have to justify my presence here.
No, your face says it all. Fear is a very powerful emotion.
Yes, and your face proves it. I don't have anything to be afraid of.
No? I meant what I said in the restaurant. I'm through covering for you and Sebastian. If they question me about your relationship with my mother, I'm not holding anything back.
Court will come to order. Defense may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense calls Amber Phillips to the stand.
But that's not right. It should be Blair.
Phillips, I want to remind you, you're still under oath.
You may be seated.
Now, Miss Phillips, I want to talk about those gloves that were found on your floor the morning of the murder. They were yours, weren't they?
I suppose so.
Well, you don't know?
Well, yes, but, they were ordinary gloves. There was nothing that distinguished them as
Maybe
mine.
if you had another chance to look at them. Bailiff, would you give me those gloves, please? Thank you. There you go, Miss Phillips. Take a real good look at those.
Yes, I'd say they're mine.
What's the history of those gloves?
My mother gave them to us for Christmas a few years ago.
Us would be...
My sister Stacy and myself. We each got a pair.
Have you worn them often?
No, I'd forgotten I even owned them until then. I've worn them maybe 3 times.
When was the last time?
My grandmother's funeral, about 1.5 years ago.
Miss Phillips, are you aware of the penalties for perjury?
Yes, I am.
Well, I want you to bear that in mind when you answer my next question.
I wouldn't lie to you. I haven't been lying to you.
You've given us testimony that you spent the entire evening at Blair Simpson's apartment the night your mother was murdered.
Yes, I was. That wasn't a lie.
That wasn't a question. The question, Miss Phillips, is on the early morning hours of September the 30th, did you return for any length of time to your apartment?
This is our problem, not just mine.
Look, I've done everything I can. I counseled her against coming here in the first place. When she did, I warned you of the dangers of her associating with undesirables. I also suggested that she stay here with her uncle. That was ignored.
I don't buy all this, Vaughn. The real reason that you don't want to help is because of your pride, or whatever's left of it. Apparently, Courtney gave it a very decent blow.
Not to mention a well-deserved one.
And although I disagree with what my daughter is doing, at least I approve of that. Maybe you'll learn something from all of this. We all suffer setbacks. Grow up and learn to deal with yours like a man.
I should listen to you. After all, you know more about setbacks than anybody I know.
And they have taught me a great deal more than your cockiness and your insolence will ever teach you. Although your relationship with my daughter is something of a business deal rather than a love affair, you can't keep treating it like one. I thought you were intelligent enough to know that.
I tried giving her a ring this morning, Preston. I turned up the Sumner charm full force. It didn't work.
Now, there's a surprise.
You proposed officially, just like that, without consulting me.
I didn't think I had much choice. Time is running out, Preston. And it suddenly dawned on me that this whole relationship with him might just be a subconscious ploy on her part, pushing me into making our commitment official.
Didn't it occur to you that the relationship may be exactly what she says it is?
She rejected me once, Preston. I am not going to put myself into the position of having her do it again. There are plenty of women out there who are interested in me, and I might add, who would enhance my financial situation, not threaten it, like Courtney.
Then why don't you save us all a lot of trouble and pursue them? There's the door. Leave, depart, go. I'll tell you why you won't. Because in your own clumsy, ineffectual way, you love Courtney. If you had followed my advice and let those feelings show, you wouldn't be in the mess that you're in right now. She would not seek out anybody else. The Sumner charm? That consists of opening a very expensive bottle of wine and discussing stock options. Now, you may call me a failure as a businessman, but as a man who knows and understands what makes other men tick, I'm no failure. Now, unfortunately, I have not been able to figure you out yet, but then, contrary to your protestations, you're not a man. And until you are, you would do very well to listen to my advice.
Well, Miss Phillips, did you return to your apartment that night?
No. I spent the entire night with Blair. I didn't go home until shortly after 6 in the morning. That's the truth, Mr. Webster. If you don't believe me, get Blair Simpson up here on the stand and ask her. And I'll tell you one thing right now. If she doesn't give you the same story, she's lying.
Speaking of lying,
I wasn't lying.
tell us about the lie you made Gil Prescott tell your sister.
I never made Gil Prescott do anything. He's responsible for his own actions.
Well, then please tell us what you suggested he tell Stacy.
I told him that if he was serious about our relationship, that he would have to break off all ties with Stacy. I suggested to him that he tell her that he never loved her. But, as I said, I never made him do anything. I simply offered him a choice.
You say that as though it were as casual as ordering coffee or tea in a restaurant. From other testimony, we know that it was very complicated, very painful.
I can only speak for myself.
Why is he going into all of this again?
Did you really think it was necessary for Gil to use such a cruel line?
Yes,
Why?
because Stacy needed to be shaken back to reality as far as Gil is concerned. I felt that it was the only way that she could be,
Well, what makes you think that she was being unrealistic about Gil?
because she refused to accept the fact of my pregnancy, that Gil was the father, and she resented the obligation he felt for it.
When did this confrontation between Stacy and Gil take place?
I ran into Gil at the Castaway Bar. He had just talked with her. That was the night my mother was murdered. And yes, that's right. He had just come, it had to have been that day. He had just come from talking with her.
Right, that was the next day right after you had aborted his child, wasn't it?
My child!
No more questions, Your Honor.
This is all wrong. It's not supposed to be this way.
It's all right, Stacy. He knows what he's doing.
Mr. Lockwood, do you have any questions for the witness?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well. Miss Phillips, you may step down.
Harold, what are you doing?
What has to be done? The defense calls Stacy Phillips to the stand.
This isn't right. This isn't what he said.
It's all right. It's all right. He knows what he's doing. Stand up.
I can't.
It's all right.
Stacy Phillips?
Hi. Thank you. We'll order in just a minute.
Very good.
Thanks a lot. Well, I assume you have some good news for me.
Doug confirmed that the divorce certificate is real.
Well, you're not surprised, are you?
No,
Nancy, you want to run that by me just one more time?
no, really, I'm not.
But
I just sort of feel like kind of foolish that I didn't trust you, you know. Could you forgive me?
yeah, I think I can do that. Okay, Nancy, what is it? What's the matter?
You know, Dan, you've done everything that you said you were going to do, and yet people still don't trust you.
You mean your family, right?
Yeah, and Ione. You know, when I told her about everything that was happening, she made me feel like one of these hookers that walks up and down Delancey Street.
Come on, Nancy. Are you going to let her ruin our happiness?
Well, I don't want to.
Well, then don't, please. Nancy, you have got to learn to stop setting yourself up to be hurt. You know what I mean? I mean, these people don't care about you, really. They're jealous. That's what it is. You've got to remember that the only opinion that matters in all this is your own. You've got to learn to trust yourself, Nancy. And me. Huh? Now, do you love me?
Yes.
Well, I love you too, Nancy. And nothing else matters.
Well, it was certainly a rather busy morning, wasn't it? I'd say that Preston was in rather good form.
Preston, as usual, played the fool.
Yeah, well, I noticed that you didn't respond too well with some of the things he had to say.
And you'll notice that he went to talk to Courtney just as I told him to.
Well, of course he did. That was only to inform her of his decision regarding her mother.
A decision that makes him need me now more than ever.
Oh, Vaughn. Preston's needs and Courtney's feelings are a subject of debate between them, and you'll just have to wait. I wonder who's going to win.
Well, I'm not worried about that. All Preston has to do is quote Courtney the weekly price tag of her mother's stay at Rose Hill. Her decision will come quick enough.
Are you so eager to marry someone who's only going to stay with you because she was forced to?
Well, for what it's worth, I really do love her. I mean, Preston was at least right there. And I believe in time she'll come around to acknowledging her love for me.
You know, you remind me of a man who goes to a restaurant planning to pay for his meal with the pearl that he expects to find in the oyster. I'm beginning to think that Preston was right on several other counts, too.
She does have feelings for me.
Oh, I don't question that at all, but we do disagree as to what they are.
It's all these financial pressures her father's putting on her. That's what's clouding the issue. I mean, if they weren't there, I think our relationship would just be assuming a normal course. The thing that gets me is that they're all so unnecessary. I mean, it's absurd. Phyllis in the Rose Hill Sanitarium. These society matrons sitting around sipping Dom Perignon out of crystal glasses while they watch Bugs Bunny on TV.
Now, just a minute. Vaughn, I may not have too much affection for my sister-in-law, but Alzheimer's disease deserves a lot more care than you're willing to acknowledge.
It doesn't merit opulence. He's always had a soft spot when it comes to her.
Mm-hmm.
It's been his Achilles heel.
Well, nevertheless, Preston is right. And if you had shown Courtney a little of that kind of affection, you probably wouldn't be in the predicament you are right now.
Miss Phillips, tell us about your current relationship with Gil Prescott.
I don't know why that's... Well, we're engaged.
Oh, congratulations. You're going to be married.
Thank you.
When?
We don't know yet.
Soon?
Soon.
Real soon?
Yes.
How about where you're going to live?
We don't know yet.
Well, maybe right here in Kingsley?
No, probably out of state.
Well, true love has triumphed at last. Now, I hope that doesn't embarrass you, Miss Phillips, that it's just that we all know what you've had to go through. Would you tell us about the day that Gil came to see you, the day he lied to you and told you he never loved you? Miss Phillips.
Why?
Because I think it's important.
Your Honor, with all respect, I would prefer not to talk about that. Even though things turned out well, it's not a pleasant memory, and besides, I don't see why it's at all relevant.
Well, I think Mr. Webster is trying to lay down some groundwork before he can get on to the pertinent facts. Please, bear with us, Miss Phillips.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Repeat the question, please.
Tell us about the day that Gil came to see you.
He said the things Amber said he did.
Did you believe him?
Yes.
How'd that make you feel?
It's one of the worst moments of my life.
Did you feel betrayed?
Of course I felt betrayed. The man I loved said he was only using me to get back at my sister.
Was this the first man you ever loved?
I don't know.
Well, did you ever have another boyfriend? Did you ever really date anybody else?
No.
How about high school?
No.
Well, then he was the first man you ever loved.
Yes, I never thought about it that way, but yes.
And Amber, your sister tried to take him away from you. Whatever her reasons may have been, she manipulated him into a position of making a permanent split with you, even at the time that she was ending her own relationship with him.
Yes, but it didn't work out.
Because true love finally triumphed. Of course, you didn't know that at the time. Did you ever feel like confronting Amber, like going over to her place and telling her just exactly what you thought of her?
Yes.
Did you do that?
In the end, I decided that I wasn't emotionally or physically up to it. And I'm glad that I didn't. It would have meant stepping down and dealing with the world on the same level that she does. Amber and I have had a very strained relationship for months. I never intentionally sought her out. In fact, I haven't even been in her apartment since the middle of the summer.
Did your mother know about what was going on between Gil and you and Amber?
Yes, my mother was very angry with Amber because of it. I believe that she told Gil about the abortion because she wanted to put an end to the whole scheme.
Now, I want you to go back just before the murder. Let's assume, just for a minute, that Amber did know that your mother had told Gil about the abortion. How do you suppose she would have reacted to that?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow the question, Mr. Lockwood. Please, Miss Phillips, answer the question.
It's my opinion that she did find out that night. As for her reaction, my mother's dead. I think that speaks for itself.
Order. Order. Quiet, please. Mr. Webster.
Miss Phillips, are you suggesting that Amber, your sister, should be on trial here for murder instead of your father?
Yes.
Why come forward with an accusation like this at this time?
I've had my suspicions, but in light of the new evidence, I think that my suspicions are justified.
Yes, the new evidence. I'm sure we all know that that's why we've been granted this extension. I think it's time we let the jury know what this new evidence is.
No.
Sorry, Dave. I'm sure you will all remember that in Sergeant John Brubaker's testimony, he told us there was an unidentified set of fingerprints found on the panic bar of the back door of Amber Phillips' apartment house. Now, I've always had the nagging feeling that these fingerprints could point to Kate Carruthers' assailant. After much diligence, these fingerprints have been identified.
Quiet, please.
I would like now to officially enter these fingerprints as evidence in this trial. They have been identified as belonging to Stacy Phillips.